What's going on, Tamers? It's your boy Varney, and today I'm bringing you the Meta Snapshot, but we are not going over the Tamers Battle League Meta Snapshot. We are going over the PPG Online Ultimate Cup that happened this last weekend. It is currently the month of February. If you are watching this in the far, far future, this was, I think, February 8th. We have the top 32 deck lists to go over. Shout out to PPG for getting me those lists. I'm very excited to go over them with you guys today because the lists show that there is a lot more variety than you think. The top 8 doesn't encompass it all. Yes, there was a lot of purple hybrid, and there still is a lot of purple hybrid in this top 32, but it does show that there are other viable decks, and if you like the deck that you play, you can play it. You can totally play it into the meta, have a good time, and try to compete. So let's hop into it. All right, so here it is. These deck lists are up on DigimonCard.io. This is what we as DGU uses for our tournament reporting. We put all of our Tamers Battle League results here, and I am the tournament curator. So I also take care of putting up the tournaments for you guys here from the various premier events that we have. So as you can see, just by the pie chart here, a very large section, more than 25% of the pie, I'd say what, maybe 35% of the pie goes to purple hybrid. We've got a little decent chunk, maybe 10% of Gallantmon, of Demon Lords, of Imperial. We have two Phoenix lists, not Phoenix, two Birds lists. They're two different builds. Got some purple Toolbox and then some one-off decks here. Lots of spicy stuff that we're gonna go over. Of course, you guys can take a look through this. We're gonna start off here with our winner, Andrew Gibson's Velgar Loop Purple Hybrid. This deck had the most representation. There was only one offshoot purple hybrid list, which was APOC. But in going over Andrew's list here, the common thread is this. We're going to see a lot of Gallantmon because prevent opponent from gaining memory. We're going to see some of this Gabumon because it's good for being able, it's a fake Ukomon, if you would. Obviously, this Ukomon is limited to 1. When you raise it, you gain a memory. This Gabumon does the same thing, just your opponent has to have a Digimon in play. But it is also nice because A, you can Digivolve it, and it also has that when attacking that you can draw one, trash one, which is good for being able to cycle through cards when you need to. You've got this Yakumon, which is an on deletion, draw one, trash one. And then if you happen to Digivolve this, or Digivolve over this, you do get to pop an opponent's level 3, which is very useful. You can pop those memory floodgates. You can pop, this deck doesn't play anything out by effects really, at least not this iteration, but it does help you with being able to take care of any pesky floodgates that you might want to get rid of. And we got Rush Guillemon here, and then basically our Uko package. You want to be searching out your Tamers and your pieces, basically your Velgar and your Duskmon here, because trust me when I tell you, if you don't see Duskmon and Velgar, it's really rough. If you can at least see Duskmon, you can be decent, but I've definitely had trouble seeing one or the other. Dan can attest to the same. You guys can check out his deck profile, and when he made 5th with APOC Purple Hybrid, I'm sure he mentioned some of the same about having basically to see your pieces. But Andrew is also running a Ginkaku promote for Rush, which is great, whether it's, you just play a rookie out and then you Digivolve for 2 because that's a 5 cost play, or you just drop this for 6 because you are running the 4 of Jack Raid, so you just go up, drop this Rush for game. I know purple hybrid, you have 2 win cons. You are either going to mill the opponent out or you're trying to, swing face for game because you are swinging at security most times. So the big thing here is sometimes you need that final swing for game, and we see that in 2 ways. Number 1 in Ginkaku promote, but we also see it in number 2 in this Gallantmon that reduces play cost by 2 for every 5 cards in both players' trash. Considering that obviously you're milling both players' decks, it's very easy to get the 20 cards in trash. That would reduce this down to 7 play cost. Which is Jack Raid territory, and it can get even more if your opponent is, doing their thing, their stuff's getting deleted, you're deleting stuff, you can end up with 30, 35 cards in trash, and this can really just become a free play. So really good card there. So we got the inclusion of Kaiser Leomon here, which is an interesting one for me personally. This one doesn't really do anything unless you're Digivolving on top of Koichi, in which it would gain Retail. But you can have retile by like other means. Obviously, like Velgarmon, if you go over it again, whether it's promote or you can go Duskmon over it again to get retile. But I guess being able to just go over this Koichi with retile, swing into something, delete that, gain a memory. I guess that's what that's being played for. We see this Nidhogg here being able to trash this to gain a memory, which works off of our Cupimon that we're running at 4 of. This is your on deletion, trash a card in hand to gain a memory. So if you're bringing up like this Ukomon, right, and that's why it's a good thing that this Ukomon is limited. 1 memory, raise, Ukomon gains you a memory, swing, die to security. Cupimon gains you a memory by trashing a card. If you have the Nidhogg, you're gaining another memory. You're going up to 4 memory. You know, Numamon used to do the same kind of plays. Not in this way, but they were able to gain memory just because of Ukos and Louis, and it was just tough times to be alive. So it's a good thing that these cards are limited to 1, because this deck I think would be a lot more sane, as well as other decks that could abuse this Uko Louis package that we see both the 1-ofs in. Now, something big to point out here, and the reason we're going over this deck list the most is because obviously this is the winner, right? We're gonna kind of glaze through some of the other deck lists because generally they're going to be the same. We're just going to look for, you know, the differences. But the big thing with this deck in particular playing Louis is this Duskmon here. The on deletion inherited is that you may play a tamer. It is not color restricted. So you can very well, you know, do your Velgar play, swing at security. Oh, you took their last security out. You have something in raising. You got that Louis in trash. Bet. This dies with the end of attack from Velgar. You play Louis on play. You promote, tap, gain memory. Boom, game. So really nasty combos there. Some really nasty combos. All in all, Purple Hybrid, a very solid, very strong deck, obviously. And I'm curious to see what the evolution of the meta looks like, especially as we head into unification. So let's go take a look at our second place list from Martin Cañas. So like I said before, it's really a lot of the same. Big differences here. Number 1, we have a Digimon Emperor to stunt that Uko, to stunt that, you know, raise for start of main phase play. We've also got a Medieval Gallantmon here. Medieval is really good. It's the new Dexmon, right? I asked Dan, I said, yo, do you think that Medieval is more of a meta, what did I say? I can't remember exactly the words that I used, but I think it was something along the lines of meta warping card than Dexmon or something. So I gotta ask him, and I gotta remember what I said, but I was just like, every deck can play it, and it has more utility than Dexmon has. Plus the sheer fact that depending on the deck you're playing, you could just Evo this for 3 cost and it's still good is just bonkers. It's insane. It's really good. Another thing I forgot to mention from Andrew's list here, the inclusion of Argomon. Argomon is really good. Let me just actually double check and make sure he was running that. I remember. Yeah. Okay. So he was running Argomon. Argomon is really good because what it does is just, depending on the deck you're playing against, this card can win you games. And that's why Purple Hybrid lists tend to run this card. Basically, when you would Digivolve into it, you suspend up to 5 tamers. It doesn't specify whose. That means you can choose anybody's. And for each tamer that the effect suspended, you reduce its Digi-evolution cost. It says opponent's turn, none of their tamers can unsuspend. And that alone is just like, okay, cool. You're playing against Red Hybrid. Your tamers shut down. Unless, of course, you just go into Emperor Grey without swinging. The mirror match, really good because they can't then do their Velgar plays on you. Card is really good. That's why these lists are playing it. And it's obviously great against the mirror. It's great against other hybrid decks, but it can also be great against decks like Imperial, where you can just shut down the Davis and Ken from being able to strip sources and gain that memory. And it's really good. So great inclusions there, but the rest of the list is basically the same. I'm going to go through the other Purple Hybrid lists real quick while we're on it, just so that we can see what the other lists look like and if there are any differences outside of the APOC list. All right, there we go. So this list is pretty much the same list. So this is Momin's list. This list is pretty much the same. This is Ethan's list, which is also pretty much the same. Something I see here, I don't think I saw on the other list, a scramble, just a one of. I think that's good for the mirror. You can pull this back off of Matt because Matt can pull a purple option. And so what this can do is if your opponent mills you out, You can proc scramble start of your turn, put the card back on top of your deck, and then draw that card for a turn so that you have another turn. So a really cute thing to do there. That's this list. Congrats to Ethan, and congrats to our previous toppers as well, of course. You know, congrats to Andrew, congrats to Martin, and congrats to Moment for all of their wins and their tops. We've got Dorian, shout out. This is the boy Plague Dr. Krona from Discord. A little bit more spice in this list. Pointing out here, we've got a Mervamon. Mervamon, he's running the 1 Ignite, the 1 Merva. So big thing with this list, you got Calling to bring your cards back. So of course you can do the whole loop and you can bring cards back to hand with Matt, but you can also bring back Calling, and then Calling can bring back 2 more cards. So this is a very like thoughtful, very insightful deck. If you guys want like a purple hybrid, specifically Vulgar Loop, like how to play guide and what to look for when you're doing your loops, it can be really big. The sequencing of it matters a lot. If you guys want to see something like that, let us know and I'll have Dan create one. I put him to work, you know. In this list in particular, one big thing to note is that he is running the Crimson Mode Ace as well as the Medieval, like the other list. But without a Lament of Friendship, you can't get these cards back if they're trashed. And there's no Growlmon piece in here either. I think it's the Black Growlmon from EX3 or EX4. I think it's from EX4. That trashes 2 cards and then pulls back a Gallant piece, which you would be able to pull back this and this. So once these cards are trashed, they're gone. That's a pretty big thing to note. Me personally, I'm not a fan of doing stuff like that. If I'm going to play cards that aren't within my, you know, I can, especially a deck like this, if I can't pull these cards back, I'm generally not going to play the cards. So perhaps instead of the Calling, I would have played a Lament, or I would have just found a space to fit Lament. Maybe I cut a Death Slinger. Maybe I cut, I don't know, something to fit in a Lament just so that I can pull back these pieces if I so need them. Oh, as well as this Gallantmon here. But regardless, it's still a spicy tech because the Crimson Mode is just going to trash for every 10 cards in both players' trashes. So using the earlier example, we both have 20 cards in trash because Velgar does mill both players' decks. If you're not swinging at security for some reason, Crimson Mode is going to trash for security. But if you are swinging at security and you do play the Crimson, or so you do swing with the Crimson Mode, it is still going to trash so much security. One of the biggest things here, though, is that it doesn't gain Rush, and there's no way in this deck for Digimon to gain Rush. So you're kind of just going to have to rely on this living, outside of just being obviously a hand trap. You know, your opponent swings while you have Medieval out, and then you're like, haha, Crimson Mode Ace. You never expected. But it's still a really cute piece, and I like that tech a lot. I wish there was a way to give it Rush, but just not in this iteration of the deck. You'd have to play something like the Serb from, I think, BT16. That would, when you play Digimon out by effect, you gain Rush, but still, it just doesn't play the same. So anyways, congrats, the boy Plague Doc. Here we've got Shane's list. So Shane's list, yep, so a lot of the same. Congrats, Shane. We've got Kevin's list here, more of the same. We've got Mako Killer's list, which is, ooh, okay, this is spicy. So Mako Killer's list here, we already see it right off the bat. We've got the Ancient Garden Deity as well as the AG. It's the 2 big standouts here. So number 1, what Ancient Garden Deity does is you may return a hybrid or 10 warriors trait. Obviously, there's no 10 warriors in this deck. You're just trying to return your Duskmon and your Valgs to your hand, and then you get to play a Tamer card with Inheritance with the cost reduced by 4. Big thing there, it's a Tamer card with Inherited. It doesn't specify color, and the requirement is that while you have a Digimon or Tamer with the hybrid trait, you can ignore the color requirements. So while, yes, you can play out your Koichis, you can also play out the Eiji because he has an inherited effect. Now, the big thing is that you're not getting his Mind Link ability, but what's really cool about it is if you decide to swing and not kill yourself, at the end of turn, you can just unmind Link Eiji and then you have a Tamer for the next turn. So that's really cute. That's the combo there. That's what black hybrids do. You're able to Digivolve all the way up. Either you put a potential ace threat on board, or you do something like you go into an ace or some other level 6, and then you eject Mind Link at the end of turn, and you have a Tamer to use on the following turn. So that's really cool there. I like that tech a lot. Those are pretty cool. I do wonder how much they actually came up, considering that they're one-ofs. Again, Ancient Garden Deity, you can't return this to hand because it's not a purple option. Matt does have to return a purple option. So once it's trashed, it's gone. For AG, you can't return tamers. Of course, Duskmon can play out tamers. This is also just a free memory gain, so to say, if your opponent has a Digimon. So it's probably why he plays that as well. But pretty cool stuff. I like to see that. Congrats, Mako Killer. Next up here, we've got Nikesh. Shout out to the boy Nikesh. Now, Nikesh decided he was going to take a page from the Book of Dan and run APOC, Dark Masters Purple Hybrid. So if you guys saw Dan's deck list, this is pretty much along the same lines. The big inclusions here, which is what all the lists are doing now essentially, is the inclusion of this Guillamon, but also this Syakomon, which is really good. We just got this in EX8. I went over it earlier, but this is the list that this card matters more for. That when attacking effect on as the inherited to pop a level 3, that means for your Valg play, when you declare swing and you decide to pop something, if you pop that level 3 and there's only a level 4, now you can use Valg. If you made that Digimon purple, you can target that Digimon for deletion to then try to wipe the rest of the board. Valg is a really disgusting card, and with the Syakomon, it really feeds into it. So we got a 9 ratio on our Dark Masters, only opting for 1 reboot on the Machine Dramon. And that's pretty much it. We've got our APOC and you've got your Lament. The goal is literally mill and then try to, throw out an APOC and mill him some more. So big congrats to the boy Nikesh over there. Let me get rid of this, and we're not going over that deck yet. Next up here, we've got Francisco's list. So Francisco running a Grape Memory Boost so that he can search out purple or green Digimon. So that's the first one we've seen here. That's important because this will pick up your medieval Gallantmon, which is really crucial to the deck's game plan at times. Sorry about that, my kids walked in. Anyways, back to this. Yeah, Grape Memory Boost is a great addition to this type of deck for being able to search out the medieval. It does also search out the Argo. I mean, of course, you can search it anyways because it's purple, but it is green. So, if you had a card that searched purple and green, that would matter. But for this instance, it's really just for searching out this medieval. So really good inclusion there to be able to pull the medievals when you want to play the medieval. And then our last list is by Xraz. I'm gonna call you Xraz because I'll butcher your name otherwise. Xraz, yep, pretty much what we've been seeing. This is the way. This is the purple hybrid way. So congrats to you, Xraz, and congrats to everybody who played purple hybrid. This deck is a very big menace to the game. I don't think it needs to be hit. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a really good deck. It obviously counters a lot of the decks that we do have in the meta. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to take a look at Padraig's blue-green Imperial list as well as Michael Lafrate's list. Michael Lafrate, you guys would recognize that name if you're part of the Eagle X Discord or you participate in the Eagle X online webcam tourneys. So shout out to them. If you guys want to play some games on a Monday or Thursday night, go check out the Eagle X Discord. Anyways, let's take a look at Padraig's list first with Imperial. Big inclusions here right off the bat. I'm already seeing it. We got a Togemogumon. I don't know why I clicked on that, I'll be honest. Yeah, we've got Togemogumon, we've got the one of Lydramon, so we've got 2 armors, but more importantly, we don't have any Magna X. Typically, when you see these cards, you would see a Magna X in the list so that you can get that armor form trait immunity on the Magna X, but nothing here, just playing it because, I mean, Togemogu's still good. When an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, you trash a top Digi-Evolution card, and then one of their things can't attack or block if it has no source. This is a blocker. That can be pretty big, as well as the Lydramon being able to suspend something down. Big things here, outside of our armor forms, we got the inclusion of 2 Hexablow. Obviously, you're playing a DNA deck, you're stacking up them sources. When Hexablow comes down, you're just going to basically shut off your opponent's board if they can't deal with your Hexablow. So with that, we noticed just the inclusion of 2 Dragon modes from BT16. This is the one that's the Digi-Evolution trap. If you play or Digivolve an opponent's if you play or Digivolve something by an effect, you let them go into a fighter mode. The big thing here though is because they're including some of these other cards like the Hexblow, like these armor forms, the concessions made here are 4, 8, 9, 10. All right, so that's 12. Generally you can get away with 10. But the concessions made is that you don't have access here to in this list specifically to that BT, I think 12 fighter mode, which can be a big menace. Obviously, this fighter mode Ace is really good because it is going to let you just straight bottom deck something with fewer Digi-Evolution source. But that other fighter mode is good because obviously, number one, it's not an Ace, so you're not going to trigger overflow if it gets removed. The other thing is that it's a big, it gets 1k for each color in source. So considering that you now have a red Vmon and the purple Wormmon as well, you're typically at 2 colors in source, but you can get up to 3 or 4 colors in source, meaning that that dragon mode can buff up to like, I think 17k, which is a Magna X beat stick. I think the big thing though, why the Togumogumon is so good is that when the Magna X swings, this activates first, it becomes suspended, you get to trash your top Digivolution source. That top Digivolution source is typically a Magnamon, and so it's gone. They can check security, but they don't have the Magnamon for the armor form. So cool stuff there. You know, Imperial doesn't need scrambles, but they play scrambles. You know, this deck. Scrambles are good, but you just have to be careful because obviously you can't play out Wormmon, either one of them. So you've got basically 8 options here of Vmons to play out. So you just have to make sure that when you trigger your scramble, you know what you have in your trash because you can't use it with Wormmon. You also have to, I learned this the other day the hard way, you have to Digivolve a blue Digimon into a blue Digimon. So it's the importance of, you know, these being multicolored and why the Stingmons, as I'm talking about it now, I realize probably why the armor forms are here. The Stingmons are good, but you typically want to be hard dropping these because you can't really use not that you want to use a scramble on them, but the big thing, right? Scrambles let you reduce Digivolution cost. So for Imperial, this technically really only matters when you're going from level 5 into level 6 because your DNA is already free. The only time you'd want to use your scramble to go from rookie into champion is if you just want that scramble on the board. So that's the big consideration there. You would have to go basically from this blue into one of these blue. Otherwise, you know, you can't use Stingmon. I've seen people hard Digivolve this Pyodramon in the back, but you can't do blue scramble from Stingmon into Pyodramon. You would have to do it from XV into Pyodramon because there has to be blue on blue. The 2 Progenitor, because, you know, Imperial and Progenitor and R4 Davis can arguably the card that I think for Imperial should be hit, but, you know, hey, we'll see what happens in a couple weeks when we hopefully get a ban list announcement. So congrats here to Padraig for their top. Moving on to Michael's list. Michael's list here, we see a little bit more spice. The spice coming in way of a more diverse Wormmon lineup. We've got the promo Wormmon that searches the top 3, grabs a 2 color or more, as well as a Ken. So obviously our Davis and Ken. We've only got Davis and Ken as our tamers, opting for the Jade memory boost instead of the Davis. So this one searches both sides of the deck, which is good. Plus you get to gain memory at will. We've got the restricted one of Hammer Spark because blue decks love gaining their memory whenever possible. We've got the medieval Gallantmon in this list. Here is the BT12 fighter mode that I was talking about. And yeah, those are the big things. Medieval is such a nasty inclusion because it can just straight Digivolve over Pyodramon and you're still going to get Partition when it gets removed. So it sits there and it does kind of the same thing as the BT16 Dragon mode, which I just noticed there's no inclusion of. So it's just going to be like, oh, you played a Digimon, but not by an effect, because this one just says straight when Digimon are played, you activate its effect. You could play your own Digimon. You have this on field and then you proc Davis and Ken effect. You can still proc the effect. It's insane. You can just Digivolve Medieval over Pyodramon and then just do stupid shenanigans because why not? But in noticing that there's no BT16 Dragon mode, instead what we see is the Starter Deck 9 Dragon mode. And this one is basically harkening back to the OG helmet. I'm going to punch. If you could think that Imperial was more helmet, it was. This is just going to punch somebody in the face. Basically, the combo here is you pull off your regular play, you go into a Pyodramon, you swing once, swing again, unless you have this XV in which you can get a third swing in because you'll swing this XV, drop your Stingmon, end of turn DNA, go into Pyodramon, unsuspend, swing, that's 3 swings. And then typically you would HPD, well, you would take away a swing, right? So you'd only get 2 swings, but you would HPD into the Dragon mode. The Dragon mode would spit out the 2 extra bodies. You could swing the Dragon mode if you want. That would be your third swing. Then you can DNA those 2 bodies that you spit out into another Pyodramon, swing again. That is your 5. And then with a card like Progenitor, you could just go into a Dragon mode, I'm thinking of the combo slightly wrong. You have to take away a swing from that Pyodramon, but you would use Progenitor to go into something like this fighter mode. No, not this fighter mode. This fighter mode that would bottom deck something end of attack. No, it just unsuspends. There we go. And this would enable you to get all 6 swings in one turn, essentially. But you could also, you know, Progenitor into Paladin. You could HPD into Paladin. Like, this deck was definitely built to be much more aggro, much more punch you in the face type thing. That's why we only see the 1 Hexablow, and really that focus on how many times can I get a swing in, and then how can I get memory so I can make sure if I need to Digivolve, I can get those Digivolves and those swings in. So congrats to Michael here. Next up, we've got the lone Takemikazuchi list. I don't think I saw another list when I was inputting these lists. So this is Jason's list. The big thing with Takemikazuchi is if they have it all in turn 2, there is nothing that you can do. And that is pretty much the story of Takemikazuchi as a deck. I know many people do want this deck to be hit. I don't necessarily know what you hit. Obviously, most people want Bowmon, and I think we can agree with Bowmon being the hit in enabling that chain, but I know that this deck can still be dumb even with that Bowmon being hit. The idea is how dumb can they be, right? That's the big considerations there. So this is your pretty standard Takemikazuchi list. I'll just explain the one card that people who are looking at this list who might not know about it would have a question about. Skullbaluchimon. Yes, it's not SOC. The reason you play this card is what it says: when it's trashed from your hand by one of your effects, if it's your turn, you may Digivolve into an undead or dark animal from your trash for the cost. So the shenanigans that this does with Bowmon is crazy. Basically, if I'm remembering the combo correctly, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, Lugamon raise, Tuck AG gain memory. You would go into Dorugamon, or, well, it's pretty much just Dorugamon. You don't really want to Digivolve into the others here. Go into Dorugamon, you trash one, then you draw one. That card that you trash, you can Digivolve into it off of Bowmon, or if you trash the Skullbaluchi, because it's the only card you have in your hand, you can use that effect to go into your soul from trash. So that's really good if you don't have the piece in hand and you need to utilize it from trash. If you think about what the new Bowmon egg does from BT 17, this is literally that on a card. It's just slightly different. That Bowmon says when you Mind Link, you can Digivolve from trash. This says when you trash this card, you can Digivolve from trash. So it's really good to be able to Digivolve from the trash if you're missing a piece, but you can also chain it in the same way. Dorugamon trash a card, you would proc this, this triggers and this triggers. You have the choice of choosing the way that effects resolve. So yeah, just a lot of combos that this Skullbaluchimon is capable of doing. I don't play this iteration of the deck. I tried it like when it first came out. I just wasn't a fan of it. So I don't get Takemikazuchi all that often, for better or for worse. But if you are a Takemikazuchi player, let us know in the comments, what are the combos? How dumb does this deck get? And of course your scrambles here, because it's Lugamon. You want to pull them boys back because you can kill off of a scramble. That's how insane this deck is. You can literally go for kill off of scramble if you have everything that you need. So congrats to Jason here. The next list that we got, because I skipped over it and I didn't forget it, I just didn't see it. Billy's Galaxy Toolbox list. This one is Dragon Links. So Dragon Links finally topping, right? No, it's the new top end. You know, the Galaxy Toolbox engine is just so versatile that you can kind of just get away with playing whatever. The big things in this list in particular, what we see, only one Cressemon going for the 4 Flaremon and 4 Garuda Ace. That is because your, what's it called here? Your Dynamon only Digivolves on red or green. So you want to maximize your red sources that you can Digivolve on. So that's the big thing there. It also does happen to play out your coinciles, which are the entire reason that your deck works. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Lunamon is the card that enables this deck to do dumb shenanigans. If on the start of main you have a Digimon in play, you return it to hand and you gain 2 memory. You can return itself. So you can literally just be like, you can just drop this, and then pass turn, and then next turn you raise. Whatever it is that you raise, it doesn't matter. This Lunamon will proc. You can choose to return herself for the effect, because the way that the effect works, by returning one of your Digimon in the hand, gain 2 memory. when you return her to hand, her effect has already triggered and you just paid the cost. It doesn't fizzle out. It continues to resolve. You gain the 2 memory. So that's why this deck does dumb shenanigans along with both hers and the Coronamon's inherited effects that basically let you regress the Digi-Evolution only if it's a Light Fang or Night Claw to gain 2 memory and then just do some more stupid stuff. Now, I know we all have our thoughts on Galaxy Toolbox, but if there was a deck that I'm at least okay with topping, it's this. At least start abusing, you know, the Mirage, the Ryugumon, the Ancient Garurumon. At least we're seeing, you know, the boys. We got Dynamon, we got Volcanic Dramon, we got Metallic, and for what it's worth, we got Medieval too. And then, of course, you know, Ragna, because you've got a cheap drop in the Medieval if you gain enough memory, which this deck can gain enough memory. To just drop this with a Metallic Digivolve and then just go into Ragna for game, essentially. Crimson Mode Ace is also nasty. It doesn't Digivolve on Metallic, but it Digivolves on your other 2, which are just, or sorry, your other 3 megas. So it can just come out of nowhere. So for those of you who don't know, both Metallic and Volcanic are really good. Metallic, what it does, it's an enormously strong Digivolve 4 on play and when attacking, not once per turn. If that ever comes up, it's not once per turn, one of your opponent's Digimon. And then the when Digivolving effect is that your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon can't Digivolve until the end of their turn. And then when it would leave the battle area other than by one of your effects, you can play a Rock Dragon or Earth Dragon from your trash without paying the cost. Ooh, look at that. Volcanic Dramon is an Earth Dragon. So if this is in your trash, you can spit out the Metallic. This has the same sort of effect when it would leave other than one of your effects. You can play a Machine Dragon or Sky Dragon from your hand without paying the cost. So like you could kind of loop these depending on like what's set up in trash, what's set up in hand. The Volcanic's other effect is your opponent can't play or move 6,000 or less DP Digimon until the end of their turn. So in a way, this does shut off Imperial. They can't play any of their pieces. It does shut off some other decks as well. And then the on play when attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. Both of these cards are absolute menaces. I wish that the supporting line was better. I think the big thing is that we needed another Hina, which we are getting the promo Hina, and I'm super excited for that. So I hope that these cards in their own deck can really come up to the limelight. But in this type of deck, you know what? I'll give it the pass for today. I'm cool with it. And then we've got the Dynamon here. We already knew Galaxy Toolbox was running this, but you know, this card is just generically good. It's also just the menace. It's got Sec +1 and Fortitude. It's gonna suspend something, pop an pop the lowest suspended DP. And then while this is suspended, it's effectively the great Dino wall. You can only attack this Digimon. And if you can't get over this 13k and remove it in some other way that isn't going to trigger bringing it back, you know, good luck. So really strong deck here. I'm not going to sit here and say that I like Galaxy Toolbox, but Billy, I will say thank you for topping with Dragon Link's Galaxy Toolbox. So congrats. Now the other list that we have here, this one was a big surprise. Echo with his green gacha list. Like, what are we in, like BT 8, BT 9? Like, when I saw green gacha, I was like, there's no way like this is actual green gacha, right? Nope, this is green gacha at its finest. If you guys don't know what this deck list does, basically, where's the boy? Mommy Tyrannomon. When attacking, reveal top 3 cards of your deck. You may Digivolve into a green level 6 without paying the cost. So the way that you do this, right, is this boy right here, Tortomon, BT7. When attacking, you reveal a green card from your hand, place it on top of your deck. You get 3k DP for the turn. So you take your Heavy Leomon, you take your Dynamon, you put them on top of the deck. Mommy Tyrannomon swing. Oh, look, it's that level 6 I put on top of my deck. Digivolve. We already went over Dynamon's effect. You already know how oppressive that is. Plus, he would be swinging that 16k for 2 checks. Heavy Leomon is no slouch either. 16k at the end of attack, either bottom deck one of your opponent's 4k or less. If you don't, you unsuspend. And then the when Digivolving and on deletion is a D-Digivolve 1 and then bot deck a 6k or lower. And it also has Fortitude. That's just nasty work. That is straight nasty work right there with those 4 of megas. The Jagamon helps because the Jagamon is also, you know, the other one that you can Digivolve into a level 6. But the Mommy Tyrannomon stands out more to me because, you know, this is the Tyrannomon evolution, so to say, but Jagamon is the original green gacha piece here. Let's not forget that. All the way back in BT1, we saw this level 5. And of course, you got the one of Blossomon and Argomon because it's a green deck. If you can Digivolve for free, why wouldn't you? Especially if you can Digivolve for free and pop something and then you're suspended. So, you could force your opponent's things to swing into this, or the heavy Leomon, like really oppressive there. Something else big to notice is the Kunamon here. Generally speaking, this deck wouldn't have like a dedicated searcher, but this Kunamon is actually really good for serving that purpose. On play, you suspended Digimons, reveal top 3, add a green card among them to your hand, and then bot deck the rest. It's a green card, so you can pull any card in the deck. That is super good for this style of deck that is really just focused on being like green good stuff, so to say. The Kokuamon is a card I love seeing. No main body effect, but inherited. While it's level 6 or higher, it gets Sec +1. So either when you're swinging your Mommy Tyrannomon, either your Dinomon's doing 3 checks or your Heavy Leomon is doing 4 checks if you don't get to bottom deck something. Like, that's big. Big thing is obviously it costs 1 to Digivolve, but like that's, in my opinion, that's totally worth it. Lopmon giving Alliance, you can play out these cheap bodies, the Kuwagamon promo here, and just get an extra Sec +1 out of nowhere. Obviously, we got Mimi to speed this deck up, Scrambles because we want to be able to pull those cards back, and then we're just going for uber consistency between the Kunamon, the agility training, and the green memory boost. We're trying to find those pieces. Let me say, Echo, green gacha in this day, in this age, in this economy. You guys want to know how much this deck costs? It's $115 on TCG Player. It's $115, and this man's hit top 16. Echo, if you're watching this video, let me know in the comments what your matchups were, because I'm so curious to know how this deck actually performed into the meta. Congrats, congrats, congrats. Next decks we're going to be taking a look at is Gallantmon, of course. Y'all wouldn't expect a tournament with no Gallantmon. We had 3 total tops from Gallantmon, which I'm sure is less than what people were expecting, but Gallantmon is still kind of missing some pieces. Specifically, it's missing the BT17 Staccato, which is so good, and replaces this Staccato, which everybody is on the same general consensus that this Staccato is trash. So that's a big thing. That Staccato is just really good for the deck. Wargrowl Ace is pretty good. And then, of course, I like that Guillamon better than this Guillamon. So still waiting on that, but we did get 3 tops because, I mean, Gallantmon is still, it's good, right? We're not taking that away from it. So if we take a look at the 3 list piloted by GDI Dart, by B Lionel, and by Orlando, generally speaking, these lists are going to look the same. There's not going to be too many differences outside of like the one-off rookie or maybe a change in a champion lineup here, basically by omitting the Black Growlmon. Those are the big things. Let's focus on GDI Dart's list first. So the big thing here is Black Growlmon. Either you love this card or you hate this card. And the reason why is because if you play Black Growlmon and you just so happen to have this while you have a Growlmon X in hand, your Growlmon X can't Digivolve over it. Your Growl X only Digivolves over a Growlmon, not a Growlmon in name. So in terms of Digi-Evolution targets, you have 2, 4, 5, just 5. So it's either you're doing that or you're using X antibody to then get its effect. The reason you would want its effect is because it gives you recursion. On deletion, you may play a Guillamon from your trash without paying the cost. So your opponent got rid of your Gallant X, not a problem. I get a Guillamon out of it. That's fine, because I can build back up next turn and I can do some more shenanigans. But Black Growlmon is really good. That's why you would play it. It's going to trash 2 cards, which you don't necessarily care about that. More importantly, you may return a Guillamon or a Growlmon Gallantmon name from trash to hand, and on deletion, the same thing. So being able to pull like any piece in your deck is just really big. You don't have another Gallant X? That's fine. Let's recycle it. You need that War Growl X that this person's only playing 2 of, which is kind of bonkers and insane. I would never, but I mean, to each their own. You topped with it. I didn't. Only two, and you want to pull one back? Hey, have at it. Let's do it, right? Big thing here. I remember people were trash talking this card, this War Growl from BC12, and I was like, what are you talking about? That's like the best Growlmon with this new stuff. Being able to go into your Gallantmon for 1 less, and then at the end of the attack, if your Gallantmon is doing its job and clearing board, gaining 2 memory, that's really good. And look at what it is. It's a 3 of in this deck, right? So that comboed with, let's see, what do we have here in Lionel's deck? So no black Growlmon here. We just opted for all Growlmons. This person did go for 4 of the War Growl X. We also see 1 of the BT12 Gallants and only 1 of the BT17 Gallant. So basically a 1-1-1. But the big thing here is that they run 3 X antibodies, which is important. You can just go from 5 straight into Gallant X if you have the X antibody and you don't lose a step, really. Also running Cool Boy searching out obviously your X antibodies, Gallant X, you know, your most important piece, as well as the Gil Growl and War Growl X. So really important considerations there. If you decide to play Cool Boy, you might as well maximize on the pieces that, you know, Cool Boy can search. So that's a pretty big thing. I like that. Only 3 Takatos. To me, that just sounds insane, right? Like, I feel like one of the problems of the deck is I always wanted Takatos, but I know that the BT17 Takato is so important that it's just like, if I can't play it, I might as well just play this Takato and call it a day. And then Orlando's list here, you know, running the same 3 X antibodies, but also running 6 total Takatos. Obviously, that last list had to fit in a, you know, fit space for the Cool Boys. Garnet Memory Boost searching a red or black Digimon. They're probably playing Garnet as a 5th offensive training. The reason I say it like that is because obviously, like I said, you want to see your Takatos, right? If you play Red Memory Boost, it's a big possibility that out of 4 cards, you can reveal 2 Takatos, or even 1 Takato can be deadly, and then you bottom deck it. The big thing with this is it reveals to top 3 and you add 1. So that's 1 less card to bottom deck. It's less cards to search and potentially bottom deck. Same things with the X antibodies. So that's a big consideration depending on how you want to build and play the deck there. The other thing we see here is this Growlmon, which I don't believe I saw in the previous 2 lists. None here and none here. This Growlmon's from the starter deck. When opposed Digimon is deleted, gain a memory. It's not absolutely necessary. It really is dealer's choice on what you want to do and the way you want to build the deck. Gallantmon is fairly versatile. There's no specific one way to play the deck. Obviously, this list going for 3 Gallant, 4 Gallant X, and also slotting in the medieval with a Crimson mode ace. This list went for basically a 3-3 split on 2 ace, and this list went for a 2-3-3 split. So 5 Gallants, 3 Gallant X with 2 Crimson Ace. Gallant is a deck. Build it the way that you see fit. Build it the way that it works for you and go and have fun with it. So congrats to GDI, Dart, to B Lionel, and to Orlando for your tops with Gallantmon. Next list we're going to take a look at. Let's take a look at the 7 Great Demon Lords list. There were 3 total. 7 Great Demon Lords is a deck that is eternally well. Oh, look who it is. Well, hello, Burrito. We meet again, this time through video. That's the boy Burrito. That's the Beelzebub Baron, also known as one of the 2 Purple Kings next to Tessero. We also got Nova with the top and Onion with the top. Generally speaking, these 7 Great Demon Lord lists are going to look the same, and that's not a slight to the deck or to the players. It's just because there's a very specific set of cards that the deck needs to play in order to function, right? So just looking at Burrito's list, which is the first one, and Onion's list, which is the last one, the big differences are ratios in these last set of option cards and the teamers. The Digimon remain exactly the same. We got the 2 Oguro, the 1 Moon Millie, the Ruin Mode, the Lilith, all the different Levias, and that's the same exact thing Burrito is running. And for what it's worth, like, you could take probably, let's see, you need your 4 Lucamon, you need the Chaos mode, the EX6 one, the 4 BLs, I would personally play 4 of that, and the 4 Creepymon. You want to play at least 2 of the Rage mode, and in my opinion, 2 of the Levia, like Burrito and Onion are doing. The reason you want to play these cards is because they got that all turns when they would leave the battle area other than battle, you get to place a card from your trash as the bottom source of your gate, which is what you want to be doing. The problem with cards like Lilith and the EX5 Levia, which is here somewhere that I can't find for some reason. It's right here. And this Chaos mode, they don't tuck cards underneath your gate. And that's a really big thing. You really do need to be tucking cards underneath your gate for just to even get to the bigger cost reduction. So there's no slight, there's nothing wrong with the deck list being very similar. They do need to play a lot of the same core cards, and they're just good cards. You want to play 3 Biting Crush and you want to play 3 this Leviamon because that card can just win you certain matchups. That combo is insane, and this card works with your entire deck. Why would you not want to, you know? Shoto giving all of your things blocker, Digimon Emperor saying, hey, you want to take chip shots, you want to raise that level 3, you want to pop off, you want to do shenanigans, you're going to pay for that. And generally speaking, if you get 2 Digimon Emperor on the field, depending on what deck you're playing against, you can shut down not just 1 turn, but like 2 or 3 turns, right? Because for example, with Purple Hybrid, you play 2 Digimon Emperors, they can't promote because they're going to lose 4 memory. They're most likely losing turn. They need to Digivolve in the back. That means they're going to lose out on the Duskmon effect. Or if they Digivolve a Valgarmon, yeah, they lost out on that effect. Big things to consider there. I like the inclusion of that. The Akihiro's there to be able to say, haha, you thought I didn't have an Ogudo, but here, I had one in hand. It's the end of your turn. I will trash this. And when in combo with Gate effect, the way that Gate works, you get to choose the resolution of effects. So both end of turns trigger at the same time. And here's the way that they work. End of opponent's turn for Gate is by deleting this Digimon with 7 or more source, you may play an Ogudo. You don't need to have the Ogudo in trash at the time the end of opponent's turn starts. So the combo is Akihiro, end of turn, draw 1, trash 1. Oh, cool, trash Ogudo. Now you get to resolve Gate. Oh, look, I got Ogudo in trash. Delete this with all the different names, and I get to play out the Ogudo. So keep that in mind. When Akihiro's in play, you got to keep an eye on what your opponent has in raising or in breeding, you know, what's under the Gate, and how big their hand is and kind of the way that they're structuring things. So congrats to Burrito and Onion here. Now the list that's a little bit different is Nova's list. The big difference, there's not like a lot of big differences, just some things to notice here. The inclusion of Elusamon X, the inclusion of Lusamon X, and the different ratios on a couple of the other Demon Lords. For example, we've got 2 sleep mode, only 2 of the EX5 Levia, just 1 of the Levia X, none of the Digimon Emperor. So again, it's just a difference in ratios, nothing wrong with any of it. They all do their own things. It's different names. And at the end of the day, you want to be tucking names underneath your Gate to be able to do things. So congratulations to Nova and everybody for your 7 great Demon Lord tops. Now, we're getting down to the end of it. We're going to take a look at the 2 birds list, and there are 2 distinct birds lists. The first birds list is an AncientGreymon Birds. If you guys haven't seen this deck before, this deck is nasty. This deck can really kick off and do some things. What this deck is doing is basically the way that there's something with the way that it works. I haven't had it played against me, but just the way that the deck works in getting on deletions, playing stuff out, gaining rush, playing more stuff out, you're able to use your Biomons, search out your pieces. The big combos that this is able to kick off is basically with your Agunimon promo, you just Digivolve over any one of your rookies, then you can go into your Ancient. And then because of your on deletions and the way that all of these work, you can take your 2-check swing, get to play out more Tamers because your Ancient returns your Hybrid as well as plays a Tamer card. And so you get to play out any of your Christy, Akihiro, Sora. And then with the things that Garuda X does, you play your Garuda Ace, you play this Garuda, which is going to let you play both Akihiro and Christy. Christy has this loop where you get to play her on play. You get to give your Biomon the on deletion, play a Biomon, and then your Biomon from BT13 has an on play. If this is played by an effect, you get to return Christy to hand to go into Garudamon. So you get to go into this Garudamon, which will then play back this Christy. The Garuda X then says you get to return a red Digimon from trash to hand, AncientGreymon. And then if you have Garudamon in source or X antibody, you pop one of your opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP. But more importantly, when a red card returns from your trash to hand, you get to give something rush. So whatever card you just returned, you get to gain rush. So if you're Digivolving this over Lobomon, and then you just get to, use effects, whether it's memory boost or you have enough memory to go into AncientGreymon. Now for the reduced cost of 2, because it Digivolves for 4, you have rush, you can swing. There's just a lot of really dumb shenanigans that this deck is capable of doing. And I know people have been talking about like trait locking stuff, but I like when certain decks are able to work and it enables like unique deck building. Not everything should be as easily abusable like something like Mirage or Ancient Garurumon, but at the same time, you know, I can understand like where the like or even the love for those decks come from. So basically, you know, what we're looking at here is the pure red version of Dragon Links, you know, or sorry, of Galaxy Toolbox, what we just saw earlier. So big props, big congrats to Krim. I've seen this deck floating around. I'm happy to see it get a top 32 here. You know, we love to see it. Maybe I'll have Gino make a, you know, deck profile on this. The other list we have is Lunixski's Phoenixmon list. This is straight Phoenixmon. We are still running the AncientGreymon. We do still have the Lobomon. So it's, sorry, let me rephrase. It's not straight Phoenixmon, but it still does play basically like Phoenixmon, because with this deck, we have the Phoenix X. Phoenix X is such a monster because it gives you your on deletion effects as end of attack effects. Oh my goodness. That's just crazy. So I called this a Phoenixmon deck because I saw the Phoenixmon and I completely gated out on the ancient part, but this is most certainly still an ancient list, but this just happens to be playing the Phoenix cards. So this plays like a lot of the same, just with a little bit more versatility because you have the Phoenixmons. It's not just relying on Lobomon and AncientGreymon to do shenanigans. You can kick off. The big things though is that it doesn't have the Christie Biomon combo. So the same one that I explained earlier about Christie, play, on deletion, warp, return, play, blah, 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 blah. Still a good list. And Lunixski, oh my goodness, I can't talk. Lunixski has topped with it. Congrats to Lunixski. The last couple lists we're going to take a look at, these are basically the one-off list here. So first, we've got a Angel's Yellow Vaccine. We've got Leviamon Purple Toolbox. We've got Bloom Vegetation. We've got a Lilithmon Purple Toolbox, Magnamon Armors, Shine Gray, and Mirage. So let's go over the two lists that should be similar, which is our Leviamon and Lilithmon Purple Toolbox. Now you can see me here just clicking the cards and the cards that load. There isn't too much of a difference in the engine. The big thing is that Lilith works more, it likes these cards, the Black Gatomon, the Lady Devi X, when you pop things, being able to play things out because of what Lilith X does. She just kind of sits there as your tower. If you think about the way that Shine Greymon plays, Shine Greymon lets Marcus swing at security and just do complete and utter shenanigans. Lilith does the same thing. She sits there and she says, y'all go ahead and swing. Whatever you do, I got your back. If it's your opponent's turn, you're going to trash security. If it's your turn, I'll bring you back to life. I mean, that's pretty much how she works, right? But obviously, it is Purple Toolbox. We do still have access to Anubismon as well as Mervamon. Ignitemon is really good for this deck because of the Lady Devi X inheritable to let you play something out on your opponent's turn. That Ignitemon can steal a memory, and sometimes that memory can be a really big steal away. Because we play 4 of those, you might as well just play the one of Merva and the one of Anubis, that you could just go into Anubis, play Merva, oh, Merva Digicross, oh, play out these things with retail, Dober X, swing for game. Like, there's just so many shenanigans that this deck is capable of doing. This is almost similar to my list. I don't opt for the Gobbly Ogre package. That is a very good package because of the 4 Lady Devimon. This is just a classic BT3 card, draw 2, trash 2. With Gobbly and Ogremon, you're able to basically make this depending on how you've digivolved, this can be a 1-cost Digievolution, and then you can go into Lilith and kick off a lot of shenanigans, or you can go into Anubis, and then Anubis is just a memory generating machine every turn if your opponent doesn't deal with it. This deck is made to be a much more toolbox control style deck. This is not meant to be an aggro deck. This is really just meant to sit there, establish your one monster, Lilith, that can't be removed. Obviously, you know, she's immune, or not immune. She has a weakness to being source stripped. She has a weakness to effects that, you know, can get around the fact that she would be deleted, like Phoenixmon. Yes, Phoenixmon would then just pop her, and it becomes this chain, and then you just don't get effects, blah, blah, blah. But a very good deck. Big props to Supersonic. I love to see the Lilithmon top. I want to do it myself. I'm trying to get Lilithmon to a top 8 this year. That's the goal. Lilithmon in the top 8. That's what we're going to try to achieve. The other Purple Toolbox list we got here is Leviamon. Now, this list is different in the way that it is running the Dober and Serb package, but it still runs the Anubismon. It still runs the Gobbly, sorry, not the Gobblymon, but it does run the Gobblymon, not the Ogremon. That's what I was thinking of. We've got the one Lord Knight X, because card is still disgusting when it does whatever it wants to do, which is collision piercing, de-digivolve, alliance, plus 3k, like can't digivolve, so shuts off ace threats. So that's why they're both, I categorize them as both toolbox list because of what they do. They play similar cards. But you could just really look at this as a Levi list, because this is generally how Levi list would be built. You've got your Dragomon, that's going to play Digimon out by effects, which then feeds into, wow, actually, I take it back. There's no Biting Crush in this list. That's insanity. I have never seen that. I don't know if I'm that brave. I'm not going to hold y'all. If I'm running Levi, you best bet I'm running at least 3 Biting Crush and 2 of the 7th Lightning. So to see no Levi, or to see no Biting Crush in this list, that I'm not gonna hold you, that's kind of bonkers to me. But to each their own, you know, I wasn't the one who topped with Leviamon. Some nice one-of inclusions here. Lopmon, this is really cute because you can play this out off of the Dragomon effect, depending on what your opponent plays out. You get to trash a card and give one of your Digimon 3k DP for the turn. So now you can make your Leviamon bigger than 13k, so 16 or 17k, which means that they're not going to die to 15k things in security. You got the Gabu X. This is probably a pretty standard inclusion for Leviat X because it gets to search out all of your X pieces, which is your Dober X, Serb X, Levia X. Of course, you got your Floodgates. You got your Labramon so that you can cycle back your Anubismon. Anubismon plays very disgustingly with a Leviamon, being able to play that for a reduced cost of 6 if you trash 3 cards in hand. So that plays out for 7. But then if you're popping things, it basically play out for 5 or 6, and depending on what memory gaining inheritables you might or might not have triggered, it might not play out for 5 or 6. It might play out for 3 to 5, you know, really insane stuff there. And also, if you have this Serb in stack, giving that rush would be legitimately insane, especially if you hit a Tamer security, then he could just go straight into the Levia X. Nasty combos. I like Leviamon as a deck still. I'm glad to see it get a top. I'm also somewhat surprised to see it's not more popular, especially against the likes of like Purple Hybrid. I know Purple Hybrid can be fast, but considering that you can kind of establish something that can delete your opponent's Tamers, I'd be interested to see what the meta turns out if Leviamon were to be bigger in the meta. So big props here to Enzo for their top. Moving on to our yellow vaccine list. This is by Trench. So yellow vaccine took a hit with the no TK, and he said, I'm not even going to run the 1 of TK. I'm going to just go for straight consistency. Give me my 4 of TK. Give me 4 yellow mem boost. Let's call it a day. that's where he's at with it. So big inclusion here is, you know, yellow finally got a memory floodgate, which is a vaccine by whatever stretch of the imagination that they needed a vaccine traded floodgates. Now they have access to memory floodgate as well as effect playing floodgates, which is really big for this deck, being able to be the kind of the ultimate control deck. Luxmon is your dedicated searcher, and Patamon's the rookie you want to see turn 1. The 2 Digimon you play is pretty much Angemon and Gatomon, or the 2 champions, I should say. That's it, because they're good. Angemon, you already know the shenanigans he does. He's going to throw virus Digimon in security. On deletion, he gets to put things in security or himself. Gatomon has barrier. If you trash her, you get to play her out. And then, of course, you've got your aces. Probably for this deck, yeah, you prefer the Angemon ace than the Magna Angemon ace, just because of, you know, being able to trigger recovery multiple times. You're playing Dominimon. Being able to play that level 5 or lower, Angel or Archangel, is really good. You got your ace threat in the Serafi ace, and as well as your Cherubi ace here, your Cherubi ace playing out this entire lineup of things. So just this deck is really good. Also keep in mind your Shadow Serafi does have it has a rule text, not black box, a rule text that treats it as a 3 great angel. That's big. I didn't realize that, and when I did, I was like, oh man, they didn't need that. Yellow vaccine having access to de-digivolve is so insane. It's so bonkers. And I think that makes this deck really good. If this deck still had access to 4 TK, there's no doubt that it still would have been a tier 1 contending deck. But I think the fact that Shadow Serafi has that that rule box text, it's a tier 1.5 deck for sure. So big congrats here to Trench. I know this video is going long, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up. We're already over an hour of recording here. We've got Bloomlord Vegetation. Who would have thought that we would see this deck up? Mike would be, let me say, premium MSG, Mike would be proud. My boy Mike, at one point, he was like, yo, Bloomlord, that's gonna be the terrorizer. That's gonna be the deck. and it never lived up to the hype. But here is a Bloom Lord top 32. Big key considerations here. Grand Gallantmon, when this Digimon attacks your opponent's Digimon, you may unsuspend this Digimon. So it's effectively a second unsuspend. Bloom Lord only ever takes a swing once, and it's just going to do like a large amount of checks with its piercing. But with this Grand Gallantmon, if you attack into something, you can unsuspend and then swing again, which is just really good. And then also being able to be unaffected by your opponent's Digimon effects until the end of their turn means that the play into Cherubi Ace, I mean, sure, you may be telegraphing it, you're telegraphing an ace play, but just the sheer fact that you can put that on board and then say, hey, watch what you do because I could have Cherubi Ace in hand. I can play Medieval Gallantmon. I mean, that alone with Medieval Gallantmon is really good. With Agitar, when an effect suspends one of your opponent's Digimon, gain a memory. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see this top. This is 2 green decks in the top 32, which is 2 more green decks than I've seen in past tournaments. I'm very happy to see this. Big props, Premium. We got the 3 Mimi, the 3 searching Mimi, Vegetation Plant Very Searcher. When effect suspends a Digimon, you suspend her, gain a memory. Of course, you've got Quartzmon. That's your big bad boss monster. You can just go into that and then just shut down boards if your opponent can't deal with it. Then it's easy GG. Quantumon, just to continue to be a menace. You know, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh card if I've ever seen one. Chimeramon, when you play out your stuff, you can just go into Chimeramon, pull something back, nag an opponent's Digimon. For example, Floodgates, can't play by effects. Cool. If you can pull 2 colors like a Cherubi Ace, Quantumon, not that you necessarily want to, but if you gotta get rid of that Floodgate, you know, that's the one way you're gonna do it, because one thing the deck will suffer to without this Lilamon, which is just without this Lilymon Ace, which is just a one of, you don't really have a good way to get rid of, you know, can't play Digimon out by effect Floodgates. You would have to swing into them. And depending on what your opponent has on board, you don't necessarily want to take that early swing. But big props, big congrats to Premium MSG. Magnamon Armors, this deck doesn't change. This deck stays the same. And yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not even really. Big congrats to Big Chungus. He was the only Magnamon top 32, but I'm not really going to go over this deck as much just because y'all have already seen it and I don't really need to sit here and talk about it. The big thing is Quan Kun. Everybody's playing Quan Kun. You can't redirect me, so I just get to do my busted shenanigans as Magna X. 2 Medieval Gallantmon because it's the new Dexmon. The final Zubagon, the one of Hammerspark, the one of Icewall, the one of Awakening, the 2 Blinding Ray. You know, it's Magnamon doing Magnamon things. So congrats to Big Chungus. We've got AncientGreymon. AncientGreymon. In this day, in this age, in this economy, this man said, you know, I knew that we were kind of getting support, but I'm gonna still give it a ride and see how it goes. And Holy Champ took it to a top 32. This is straight shine if I've ever seen straight shine. This deck does exactly what it does in the way that you know it does it. It's gonna be Marcus swinging face at security. He's gonna be punching them Digimon and allowing his brother Agumon to digivolve up into Shine Gray, get that sec +1, go into burst mode, swing, play, trash security, blah blah blah. Like this is just straight BT12 Shine Gray, right? Like there's nothing extra about this deck. Not even a scramble, which is insane. Like I would definitely play scrambles, but man's just said I can't. Like it seems like Holy Champ was just like, I just came back into the meta. I still got this BT12 deck. Let me see if I can compete. And damn sure right he did. Like this is a top 32 with the newest card being the offense training. So that's insanity. The biggest of congrats to Holy Champ for having the cojones to take a straight BT12 deck into this meta and still top with it. I hope you stick with it, but this deck is only $55. If you guys thought Digimon decks were expensive and that you couldn't play in competitive tournaments, well, you would be wrong. The last deck I'm also not going to justify with an explanation is Mirage, because Mirage is Mirage. It is the only Mirage top, and I hope this doesn't mean that Mirage doesn't get hit on the ban list. I am a proponent of banning Mirage because I hate that card. I hate this deck. I hate everything about it. I hate the way you talk. I hate the way you walk. Yeah. Let me stop. Yeah, Mirage. This, for what it's worth, this is a more like standard Mirage list, because I've seen other Mirage lists like lean heavier into the other megas and only play like 1 to 2 of the burst mode. So this is still this Mirage list is definitely more predicated on being your original like OTK Mirage. The big thing is that it plays the Huangkunmon, not the one that can't be redirected, but the one that allows you to tuck something underneath to allow it to unsuspend. So at the bare minimum, I can respect that, but I still hate this Digimon. I hate this Digimon. I hate this deck. I hate everything about it. But a big congrats to Windswept Skies for their top. And that is it. I'm done talking. Thank you guys for hanging with me over this hour of going over these deck lists. I got the pleasure of getting the top 32 list, so I figured I would go through every top 32 list that I could, give my thoughts and kind of just go over the decks. I took this in a much more free-form way than I normally would have. Generally speaking, I would bring up each deck list, take a look at it, and kind of know what I would be talking about heading into the deck list. But because there were so many deck lists, I was afraid I wasn't going to remember everything. So I took it all just, you know, as we did the video, just to give my thoughts first thing upon seeing the deck list, which, I mean, yeah, I definitely saw some of those for the first time, like that Ancient Grey list that had the Phoenixmon in it. But again, thank you guys for hanging with me. If you like this video, please drop a like and drop a comment. Let me know, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see me improve upon, and what new things you'd like to see us do. Make sure you join the tournaments. Maybe you can be featured on one of these videos. Thank you guys for watching this Meta Snapshot, and until we talk to you guys next time, peace out.